speaker today is the Reverend Lowell Smith. Now, I first met Lowell, we're both priest of the Order of Melchizedek, and I first met him during some classes at the headquarters of the Order in New York State. Lowell's main characteristic is that he's extremely psychic. How psychic is he? Well, he's continuously aware of the spirit realm around him. He continuously sees auric fields and lights around any living thing. And he continuously is aware of dead people because they're always around. In fact, he's so aware of them that as a child it took him a long time to learn to discern the difference between those who are incarnate and those who are discarnate, because he was equally aware of both. He can access a person's Akashic records, which is the spiritual record of all the soul's activities throughout all time-space. And he's been psychic since childhood, which isn't always a good thing. At one point when he was a child, and he asked, he was concerned that a certain man had no lights, no auric field around him. And then when that man died later that day, he was beaten severely for his satanic premonition. Well, since when is telling the truth satanic? That's news to me. So after all these years, this planet still has a lot of difficulty dealing with super psychic little kids. And for that reason, one of Lowell's main activities is to assist the New Consciousness Millennium children to understand their abilities and use them properly. Lowell is also a medical intuitive, able to see inside the body and sense energetic disturbances. And under the category of physician heal thyself, in 1996, he was discovered to have a brain tumor. Now, Lowell accurately diagrammed its exact position, including an area near the pituitary, which would not even have been suspected. And that was all confirmed during surgery. He's a consultant to several paranormal-based organizations, and he even conducts ghost tours at haunted locations. So please welcome Lowell Smith.
As I hear Lloyd say that, I said, gee, he'd be a good guy to listen to. That's me? Get myself set up here. So anyway, good morning to everyone. Good morning. Thank you for allowing me to be here. And start my timer so I know myself how I'm doing. As I prepared my talk, I thought about, well, what am I going to be doing here? Because I'm speaking to people who are already on the path. So, to look at you and to see your aura is number one, as to what, as he says, I do see. I see your physical body, but I respond to your aura. That's primarily how I judge people. That's how I judge people all my life. And that continues to be the way I look at things. As I tell my students sometimes, if you could but see through my eyes the magnificence that I see when you're shining your aura, when you're in tune, you would be totally amazed, because it is astoundingly beautiful. And it's the best way I can put it. So I asked, okay, what unique words or ideas can I come up with that will help you not only stay awake in this beautiful sunny morning, but also provide you ideas or concepts that will inspire you and provide you with a slightly different glimpse into your own connection to that still small voice within. So I see my role this morning as not just to entertain you, but to inspire you to continue to be aware of, or to become aware of, your own magnificence, which will then help create for you a richer communication to the divine within, what I call God. And I hope to do this by providing you a story of how I not only learned to survive, but to actually learn to grow, and at first in a Catholic environment, and then later in a much harsher Baptist environment. I was in the Catholic environment from the time I was about 2.5 until I was about 4, and then the Baptist environment from the time I was about that age until about 18. This was made particularly difficult or challenging for me because I was extremely psychically sensitive. My earliest memories are of my mother's lights. And she used to tell the story of I would play with her lights. And she was aware that I was playing with her lights. And so it was a delightful little experience. So for me, lights were just normal. I saw lights around people, all living things, animals, plants, etc. And I would tell my grandma sometimes that the plant was talking to me in nonsense, needing water. And she would get angry at me because I was being evil, as she called it. But I also saw little people and fairies all my life. And I've had a lot. One of the fun things I did, I taught classes with the youth at Unity in Fairfax, Virginia since '72. And I would take them out into the garden areas or around the church and like that and have them sense the energy of the plants, etc. And then as I had them do that, they become much more sensitive and they would actually see. I said, Betsy's little boy, Ian, I took him out one time and I said, see, the little people over there. He said, yeah, there's one over there too, and yeah, there's one over here too. So for me, it's delightful to just help kids get acknowledged that their sensitivities are not just their imagination, but in fact real. Well, I was born to a highly psychically sensitive mother in December 29, 1939. And I was the middle child of an older brother and a younger sister. And when my father finally left my mother and he joined the service, it was 1942 during World War II time, she went to work in a war factory to try and get on with her life. However, when she tried to get a divorce, because of the attitude toward servicemen, which was very positive for servicemen back then, the courts were very not kind to her. And she tells lots of stories about the difficulties she had. But what they ended up doing, the court said, well, you can't show that you can support 3 children, so we're going to send your 2 boys to a foster home. And so it turns out one of her friends who worked in the bearing factory in Detroit with her, his mother ran a foster home up in northern Michigan near Manistee, which is in the Upper Peninsula. And so at the tender age of 2.5, I still have memories of me being in this little suit with a pin on and piece of paper on my tab, basically saying who I was and where I was going. And they allowed that back then. And so this lady accompanied me and my brother on the train. And back then there was no bridge, so we had to do the ferry across the straits up there, and then took another train to Manistee. And where we met the foster family, and so at the tender age, as I said, my brother, by the way, was about 5 at that time, because he's like 2.5 years older than me. So we were introduced to the family, and one of the family members was a new nun. One of her sisters had just become a nun. And there was 1 or 2 other foster children there, I can't remember. There was this one little girl, I don't remember any details. You know how foggy your memory can be at that age, but we always called her Prickle Bush, and that name stuck in my mind for years and years. And the family's name stuck in my mind, and I never knew it, but it would turn out it was Lakoski. And there's another whole story I'm not going to at this point. So anyway, my memories of those years are very sketchy, here and there. But anyway, throughout my first 2.5 years of my life, before I went to that foster home, I was very energetically sensitive, psychically sensitive, however you want to call it. And I could communicate with plants and animals. My grandmother's dog, Rover, and I tell stories about that in my book, which I happen to have a copy of here. And in there, he would always protect me. So I loved Rover. I wrote the book, Growing Up Psychic, in 2009 to basically, because my spirit guides told me I needed to, but I wrote it as an autobiography. But in there, I include a lot of stories to help parents and grandparents and counselors who deal with the New Age consciousness, kids who are highly psychically sensitive, 99% of them I'd say are, and help them understand, not just the kids, but the parents, what is it, when your child is looking off in the distance, how do you speak to that child? Particularly if that child is pre-verbal, right? How do you communicate with that child? And I have examples in there of ways you can do that process. And people have told me that they found that to be very, very valuable. So during that time frame, my angel lady in white, because that's all she's my guardian angel, but that's all she ever referred to herself as, my angel lady in white. Never gave me a name. They don't have names. People come to me and say, what's my guardian angel's name? And they don't have one. You just have to come to terms with that because they don't. But as I described in my book, the lights of my mother were absolutely gorgeous. They were always constantly jumping around and stuff like that. And then when she would become very fearful, they would literally go in, almost like, and for me as a kid, it felt to me like she was going away. However, unfortunately, my father was a violent person, unfortunately. A lot to do with his childhood. But I always called his lights dirty lights because they were. They were always angry, and when he would really get angry, they would literally be like an erupting volcano. And used to scare the hell out of me. And so if you find a child who is responding negatively to someone, even yourself, check yourself first of all, because it might not be you, but it might be. And if you find them reacting that way to anybody, external, they're more than likely reacting to something, and don't ignore it. Just be cautious about it and pay attention to what they're saying and how they're reacting. So the foster family that I went to was a nice old home on a lake, Cooper Lake, I think it was called, up north of Manistee. And there was a house, and they had several other cabins that they would rent out during the summertime to campers. And they also had a house in the town of Manistee, very near the Catholic Church, which we lived at during the wintertime. I talk about that in my book. However, what I want to focus on now is my psychic sensitivity experience and how they help me understand and connect to the divine or the angelic realm, specifically, and how and what that understanding and connection allowed me to survive the environment that I was actually exposed to. The Catholic Church, what I love the Catholic Church as a small child, and in fact I still do. I love the ceremony and the Mass, and now I understand because I see the energy associated. I will say this. I've gone to Catholic Masses, and a priest doesn't even know the energies creating by the ceremonies that creates it. And it's like I'm seeing them there out of tune with the very energy they create. And yet I can see that energy. And I would see energy descend upon people when they're taking communion, see energy pass from the minister or the Catholic priest to parishioners and things of that nature. And I could also see them when they would hold it. And that was just a part of what my experience was as a young child. During those years, my brother, who was also very psychically sensitive, with much disgust really and disdain, I was not very quiet about my psychic sensitivities. He was, I was not. So when I would see angels or fairies, I'd excitedly talk about them. When I would see ghosts, I would openly talk to them. And it caught me in a lot of trouble, is the best way I can put it. What was really interesting, in the Catholic Church, almost all Catholic Church have a large cross with a crucifix on it, meaning that the Master, Jesus, as I call it. And I could never understand that, because there's a country western song says where this little girl's dad kills her mom, and she sent away to a foster home, and the kid, she didn't have loving and kindness when she was with her parents, but after that she did, and they took her to church, and they said, "No, that's Jesus on the cross," excuse me, and it says she didn't understand because he came off the cross and held her. Wow. You know, that happened to me. Sorry. And that's still, as you can see, a very powerful experience to this day. But one of my first experiences of seeing a dead person, a person in a coffin, the man of the house, the father, died. And back then it was in the wintertime, and in upper Michigan it freezes hard. And so I remember them putting him in the coffin in a parlor room. We had a parlor room. And I remember burning lots of potpourri and candles and incense. And I did not understand, because I saw his physical body, but I also saw him. And he was, when I'd try and talk to him, he shied away from me. He wasn't very nice to me before. And when I'd see him try and talk to other people in the room where people were, nobody was paying attention. I didn't understand, what was that all about, kind of thing. But that was my first experience. But I still, to this day, remember the smell of potpourri and incense, because I also remember the smell of the body started to get after a while. I don't know how long they kept him there, but it was a while. Anyway, during those 3 years or so that I was at the foster home, lots of stuff happened. I enjoyed my time there. I loved the ceremonial aspects of the Mass, as I said. I would at times see angels all around the service. And just an aside, it's not part of my notes, but just an aside, as I parked by the school and I'm walking to the church, right? So Paul shows up. Paul Solomon, who I knew that. And he jokingly says, "For this, you did all that." And what it was meaning, for this coming here, I've gone through all the things I've gone through over the years. Just sort of, he would understand clearly. That's my normal day, by the way. just so you know. But one of the things that I want to talk about is how I went about, how do you go out, how do you go about learning to talk to spirit, to dead people, to the angelic realm? When I say the angelic realm, I refer to angels and archangels and other high-level ascended master, is sometimes referred to, beings. But there are also, at least from my own experience, I have experienced extremely high vibrational beings, light beings, that do not codify into what would be considered archangels or ascended masters. So, and although I've been in very strong communication with them, and they've embraced me and pulled me into a light, there's never a expression of who they are, because who they are isn't important. The experience is what's important. And so that's the part of the process I want to help you understand. It isn't, I got to find a name, I got to identify that. Stop identifying and simply experience what you experience. You will find words around it later on, because Spirit will provide those words to you as you really cogitate on it, as you really open your heart to what is it was I supposed to get from that, and what is it I'm supposed to get now from that. And I will say this, It's not all about showing you things just to show you things. It's about showing you things so that you understand, so that when you meet someone you've never met before and they start talking about something that was not your experience except for that one moment when they showed you that, you get all understanding for you and you can do the service that you need to do with that particular individual. That's the real important thing. So you may say, well, how do you do that? You know, I'm psychically sensitive, you're not. I say, no. Every single one of us are born psychically sensitive. All children are born psychically sensitive, whether they live 1 minute, 1 day, 90 years, or whatever. Most children turn it off between age 6 and 7, typically to fit in. But many don't. And they find themselves very confused about that. That's one of my missions in life, is to be a resource to help parents and children, I'll say adults and children, not just parents and children, parents, children, grandchildren, people, adults who have had experiences themselves as children, etc., and would like to understand what those experiences were all about. So my role is to be a resource, to be open and available to them at a moment's notice. It could be in a hotel lobby, it could be in an airport, it could be in a sanctuary here, it could be like in class yesterday. It's constantly being available. And when you say, not my will but thine, as the old Casey cooperation affirmation goes, not my will but thine, you need to be able to recognize, if you want to be used, you will be used. So, now, I want to say that what happened when I was about 6 years old, a man came into my grandfather's barber shop, and he did not have any lights, and it scared me. I knew that that man didn't have any lights, but I could see him. I just saw this man, he didn't have any lights. I didn't see his spirit per se, he just didn't have any lights. So I ran up to my grandpa, Grandpa, he doesn't have any lights, what's wrong? Well, he spanked me and put me in the corner. And when we got home, he told my grandmother I was bad because I embarrassed him. And then when the next day, our next door neighbor, the sheriff, came and told my grandfather the man had died. When the sheriff left, my grandfather said, "Where is he? Where is he?" And he yelled my name, and I knew I had to come see him. So when I did, he grabbed me, started beating me with the razor strap, said, "You killed him, you killed him. I'm going to beat the devil out of you." And so he beat me until I was unconscious. The next morning, my angel lady in white appeared, and I asked her to take the gift away. And she made the man appear, and he was fine. And he apologized for getting me in trouble, but he was fine. Then he disappeared, and I said, "No, I do want the gift taken away." So she took the gift away. So from that point forward until I met my mom again when I was about 15, none of that was real for me. If it happened, I just ignored it. However, when I met my mom again, she started talking to me about sensitivities, aliens, ghosts, all kinds of stuff like that. And my angel lady in white appeared one day. In fact, I was on my way home, walking home from football practice, and she appeared and she says, "Time to turn the gift back on." And my God, I saw all kinds of stuff. And so I started talking to her, and she helped me figure out what it was all about and how to protect myself and all that good stuff. So from that point forward, it's been wide open, and I've been doing studies ever since. So over the next decade or so, from that point forward, probably mid-20s, when I met my wife, Suzanne. Suzanne was very interested in metaphysics, esoteric stuff, and like that. And she was a very good astrologist. And she was interested in Casey. She introduced me to that. So in 1963, I met her and I told her about my gifts and sensitivities and that. And she was very supportive and wanted to help me express it and learn more and stuff like that. So we got involved in Unity. I was at University of Delaware, and I was in electrical engineering at University of Delaware. So we were involved in ARE Search for God study groups. First time I came down here was 1967, summer of 1967. And met Paul a few times during that time frame. And so over the decades, that process continued. I continued to expand, continued to develop my sensitivities. And as I say here, over that time period, from the time I met my wife and started really intensely studying, I really immersed myself in metaphysics, in religions, the paranormal. I became a consultant to SFF, Spiritual Frontiers Fellowship, way back when. And my first conference at ARE was the Creation Conference with Beulah Allen, May St. Clair, all the old folks. It's one thing. I mean, we stayed at the Marshalls. You know, one of the Marshalls is still there. It's one thing. When you get old, you have lots of stories to tell. It's just a fact of life. But anyway, while I was all doing that, I also did an undergraduate and graduate degree in electrical engineering at the University of Delaware. And my studies, by the way, continue to this day. I facilitate an Indigos and Sensitives group every Wednesday night at the Unity of Fairfax Church from 7 to 9 p.m. On Thursday night, I facilitate a Search for God study group that has been studying all kinds of stuff other than the Search for God material. Right now, we're looking at the Nag Hammadi scriptures, and I'm correlating that with Kabbalah that I teach in Tucson, and also combining that with the work of Zechariah Sitchin. So I continue those studies to this day. But I also studied religions, and when I took the Religions of Mankind class, I really related to Buddhism. And my paper, we had to write a paper, and my paper was called The Atman Brahman Concept of Indian Hinduism. And my professor read it, and he says that it was the most profound way of describing that he'd ever had. He used it as a reference paper for several years thereafter. It was just, I didn't write about it based upon what I read. I wrote about it based upon what I knew inside. And that's one of the things I will say that I'm grateful to the Creator for helping me do, is utilize my psychic sensitivities to really understand, not just from here, but from here. And so my book is much of my book is written from my heart. There's parts of it that are very cognitive related, but much of it is written just from my heart. And when I approach a subject, when I talk to someone who's Hindu, and I approach a subject, I'm able to tap into the energy of the ancients, is the way I put it. Basically, I'm tapping into the ether, because the energy is all around us all the time if we are just able to tap into that information. It's learning how to have the right filter, I guess. So anyway, as I fully embrace the principle that we are not a physical body with a spirit. We are a spiritual essence occupying this physical body, working in this physical dimension. It's one thing to listen to those words as a concept. It's a totally separate thing to recognize that as that's who you are. It's not maybe what you're doing or how you're doing it, but that is who you are. It's the very essence of who you are. And once you realize that, you recognize, so is everybody else. Nobody's different. The essence of who you are is not different than the essence of who I am. It's just that we're expressing through these physical bodies, and we're creating a personality as part of that process. When you can get the ego out of the way, the need to be right out of the way, the need to be looked at in favor of versus as just one or as just nothing, when you can get that out of the way, then you get to begin to operate from who you are. That's really what it's all about. How do you do that? You take the words, I am not a physical body with a spirit. I am a spiritual essence occupying my physical body. Now, you've opened the door to say, but what the hell does that mean? What does my spiritual essence look like? What does it feel like? How do I communicate with it? Daily prayer and meditation. Moment by moment by moment. When I see you and I look deep into your eyes and I look at the essence of who you are, by doing that, I give you the opportunity of recognizing that essence within yourself. And then it's up to you to embrace that or not. It's not up to me to make you embrace that. It's up to me to lift that up within you and then allow you to embrace that if you wish. That's your stick. That's your path. It's not my path. My path is to be the source that basically, like I'm a candle. I light candles in other people. If they choose to blow it out, then they choose to blow it out. I don't judge. I don't evaluate that. I just do what I'm guided to do. And leave God do the rest. She is far better doing it than I am. So how do I maintain that two-way dialogue? Because for me, ever since my gift was turned, when it was on and when it was turned back on, it's always been a two-way dialogue. When it was shut off for a long while and then turned back on, I had to relearn how to listen. We can talk and we can talk and we can talk, but most of us don't spend the time listening, spending the quiet time, and stop judging. Well, I fell asleep. Oh, my mind distracted me. I thought about this or I thought about that. Our mind, because we are human beings, and our ego is like a bunch of flies. When you meditate, you're going to have all these flies swooshing at you. You have to learn to simply swoosh the flies away. You may spend the entire 20 minutes for a whole year swooshing away the flies. But once you realize they're there, you learn, I don't even need to switch them. I don't even pay attention to them anymore. Are they there? Absolutely. One of the greatest revelations, I think, that the Dalai Lama gave to humanity was when he said, I too have monkey mind at times. When I teach meditation, I don't teach quiet your mind. I'll say it again. When I teach meditation, I do not teach quiet your mind. I teach focus your mind. And the focus your mind is focus on your breath. When they were doing meditation here, I really like the idea. You focus on your breath. As you breathe in, you consciously think, I'm breathing in light, life, and love. And when you exhale, and I'm allowing myself to release any tension, any worry, any concern, any toxic thoughts, any toxic material that's in my body, just allowing the body processes to take that away. You continue breathing. You breathe. The life force is activated through the breath, in the sense that without the breath, your life force exits this body. So the point is, in order to get in touch with who you are, you have to allow yourself to become focused on your breath. That focusing on your breath will then allow you to become quiet, and then you can then begin a two-way communication with the divine. Now, how much more time do I have? Okay. All right, thanks. Well, I would like to do a guided image meditation for everyone, please. Okay. I got off my topic. So please become comfortable in your seat if you aren't already. Hands comfortably in your lap, and please close your eyes gently. As you do so, I want you to begin paying attention to your breath. As you breathe in, consciously think, I'm breathing in light, life, and love. And as you exhale, I want you to consciously think, and I'm letting go of all worry, tension, or concern, releasing any negative thoughts or negative energy you might be holding on to. You can always pick it up later. Repeat this process one more time. Breathe in and consciously think, I'm breathing in light, life, and love. And as you exhale, consciously think, and I'm letting go of all worry, tension, or concern. Again, releasing any negative thoughts or negative energy you might be holding on to. And now simply breathe normally, while still paying attention to that breath. Now I want you to begin focusing on the center of your forehead, your third eye chakra. And I want you to feel or sense or imagine a stream of energy flowing out of or flowing into that center. For some of you will be flowing in, for some of you will be flowing out. But just allow that to occur. And as you sit there comfortably relaxed in your seat, become aware of a loving, caring presence that is all around you. As I call forth the energy of the Masters and the Divine, and allow yourself to simply be embraced by that light presence. For that is the light of the Most High. To some of you, you may experience that energetic presence as the energy of the Buddha, or Krishna, or others may feel like it may be the energy of a rabbinical consciousness being. Yet to others, it may feel or appear as the Master, Yeshua, or Jesus as you may call him. And to others, it may feel like the presence of an angel or angelic presence. And some of you may actually feel the presence of the Most High God. Whatever your experience, whether it be one of the presences that I've already mentioned, or whether it be some high energy presence, I want you to simply bathe in the experience of love and caring for and about you. For you are unconditionally loved by the Most High God. As you continue to sit there and experience whatever it is you're experiencing, I invite you to reach within the deep recesses of your heart, your intuitive mind center, and ask that you be allowed to connect with the divine within, the very essence of who you are, which is an expression of the Creator of all that is. And then just sit there for the next several minutes and remain open to experiencing whatever it is that you are connecting with, while continuing to ask whatever question you might have of that divine presence. Ask for help as necessary for you to remain open in receiving the information that you or your soul is seeking. And I'm going to be quiet for the next 2 minutes to allow you to connect to that source of your being. Now, as you hear my voice, I want you to begin focusing on it. The other noises are in the room or outside. Become again aware of the seat you are sitting in, the people that are next to you, and when you're ready, please gently open your eyes. I hope and trust that each of you had an experience that you were expecting, or at least hoping for, and that I was able to help you experience, at least for a moment, a rich, two-way communication with the divine within. I would like to close with a prayer to help you remain connected to the still small voice within. Dear Father, Mother God, thank you for helping each of us connect to Thee through the inner voice that you created within our soul as a means of reconnecting with you as we express in this physical domain. Thank you for all the master entities that you have sent to help remind us of your presence, each one teaching in the way he or she was guided to teach. I ask for thy blessing upon each person present as they move forth throughout the remaining part of this day, as well as this week. And I ask that you help all of us spread our inner light with all we meet day by day. I ask these things, believing and full well knowing that if a prayer is made from a humble heart, it shall be granted. Amen. And thank you.